Hello, Seeker. Welcome to episode 2 of Answering the Question. The question for this discussion is, would things have been better if Ricky survived or never was killed? Boyz in the Hood is listed as a coming-of-age hood drama. The movie is about a protagonist, Trey, going from childhood to adulthood. Plot points are usually emotional changes within the characters in question. The only character that develops is Trey. The only character with a clear positive future is Ricky, and the only character who has adapted, is thriving, and dominating the environment of the urban area of Crenshaw in the 80s and 90s is Doughboy. That was evident when they were 10 and an adult male asked Ricky for the football Ricky's dad gave him, and Doughboy went to retrieve it and took a slap for asking for it. The gangs not only sold drugs and committed crimes, but they were also bullies. Doughboy could have used the situation where the adult male asked for Ricky's ball and didn't give it back as a vehicle to tell his mom that Ricky lost the football and felt happy about Ricky making a mistake, since Ricky normally got praise from their mom, but he doesn't. But Doughboy chose not to. Throughout the movie, Doughboy always is taking up for Ricky, despite Ricky being the favored of the two sons. Doughboy, like any other person who grows up, could have a positive upbringing, a positive future, and be prosperous with the right guidance and the right environment. Spoiler alert, if you have not seen Boyz in the Hood or you would like to check it out again, I watched it on Amazon Prime. You can watch it and then come back later. The last chance, spoiler alert, for Boyz in the Hood. Boyz in the Hood is a 1991 American coming-of-age hood drama directed by John Singleton, written by John Singleton, starring Cuba Gooding Jr., Morris Chestnut, Ice Cube, Lawrence Fishburne, Nia Long, Angela Bassett. In 1984, 10-year-old Trey Styles lives with his mother, Reva, in Inglewood, near Los Angeles International Airport. After Trey gets into an altercation at school, his teacher informs Reva that even though he is highly intelligent, he has a volatile temper and lacks respect for authority. Concerned about Trey's future, Reva sends him to live in Crenshaw with his father, Jason Furious Styles, from who she hopes Trey will learn valuable life lessons and to be able to mature, but assures him he will be permitted to return to her one day. Trey soon reunites with his friends, Doughboy, Doughboy's maternal half-brother Ricky, and Chris, their mutual friend. Furious immediately has Trey rake leaves off the front lawn, informing him of work and responsibility. Chris sneers at Furious's offer to pay them for raking leaves, implying he makes more participating in criminal activity. That night, a burglar enters the house, and Trey hears his father shooting as the burglar flees. They wait for police, and two officers arrive an hour later. The white officer is civil and professional, while the black officer is hostile and displays a contempt of other black men, also known as self-hatred. The next day, Trey, Ricky, Doughboy, and Chris venture to a nearby neighborhood where Chris knows the location of a dead human body. While the quartet is there, a group of adolescents loitering and drinking on a sidewalk confront them about the discovery of the body. One of the adolescents tricks Ricky into throwing him his football. Doughboy is disgusted with his brother and tells him he'll never get the ball back. Doughboy tries to retrieve it anyway, but is beaten and kicked by the ball thief. While the other boys walk away, one of them gives Ricky his ball back. Later in the day, Furious goes fishing with Trey, telling him of his military experience in the Vietnam War. He advises Trey to never join the army, arguing that a black man has no place in the army. When Trey and Furious return home, they see Doughboy and Chris being arrested for shoplifting, with Brenda, Ricky, and Doughboy's mother looking on from her front porch. 7 years later at a barbecue, Doughboy, now a young adult, has joined the Crips. He is celebrating his recent release from jail, along with most of his friends, including Chris, who is now paralyzed and uses a wheelchair as a result of a gunshot wound, and new friends Dookie and Monster, also Crip members. Ricky, now a star running back for Crenshaw High School, lives with his single mother Brenda, his girlfriend Shanice, and their infant son. Trey has grown into a mature and responsible teenager, works at a clothing shop at the Fox Hills Mall, and aspires to attend college with his girlfriend Brandy. Their relationship is strained over Trey's desire to have sex, while Brandy, a devout Catholic, wishes to wait until after marriage. Trey brings some barbecue back home to his father, Furious. Furious asks Trey if he has brought back any swine, which suggests that Furious is a black Muslim. Ricky hopes to win a scholarship from the University of Southern California. During a visit with a recruiter, Ricky learns that he must score at least 700 on the SATs in order to qualify. Trey and Ricky both take the test together and then visit Furious at work after. Furious takes them to Compton to talk about the dangers of decreasing property values in the black community. In the end, Ice Cube's character Doughboy asks, "Does America care what happens in the hood?" The entire movie is somewhat of a rhyme, meaning one part goes with another. Furious telling Trey there's no place for a black man in the army rhymes with Ricky saying that he's going to join the army so he can provide for his family. Furious saying the dangers of decreasing property values in the black community rhyme with Doughboy asking, "Does anybody care what happens in the hood?" So the answer of why there's not a large movement to change how things are in the hood is because of gentrification. If people in low-income poverty areas are committing crime and lowering the property value, people who have money can go in, buy the buildings and land, they're cheap, and then turn around and sell it for a profit. Another rhyme, Angela Bassett wanted Furious to raise Trey through the hard years, and later on, the other part of the rhyme was Angela Bassett's character being successful and now wanting Trey back after he had been fully molded. And the reason why that's more of a rhyme and reason is because his mother wanted Trey to have a better life with his father and then to give him a better life as an adult. That night during a local street racing gathering, Ricky is rudely bumped by Ferris, a high-ranking Bloods member who was recently confrontational with Trey for walking across the street in front of his car. This leads to an argument that results in Doughboy brandishing a handgun and warding off the Bloods. Moments later, Ferris fires a submachine gun into the air from his car, causing everyone to panic and flee. Trey leaves with Ricky and states his desire to leave Los Angeles. They are soon pulled over by the police. The officer turns out to be the same one who responded to the burglary call made by Furious 7 years earlier, and he intimidates and threatens Trey. Trey visits Brandy's house and breaks down. After she consoles him, they have sex for the first time. The next day, Doughboy and Ricky get into a fight. While Trey and Ricky walk to a nearby store, they see Ferris and the Bloods driving around the neighborhood. And in an attempt to avoid them, the two cut through the back alleys and Ricky suggests that they split up. As Trey turns his back to Ricky, Ferris's car cuts off Ricky's path to exit the alley. Ricky attempts to run, but one of Ferris's men fatally shoots him in the leg and back respectively. Upon seeing Trey and Ricky are in trouble, Doughboy and the other Crips rush over to the scene, but catch up with Trey too late. Devastated, the five boys carry Ricky's lifeless body back home. When Brenda and Shanice see Ricky's corpse, they tearfully break down and blame Doughboy, who unsuccessfully tried to comfort them and explain himself. That night, a distraught Brenda reads Ricky's SAT scores, discovering he scored a 710, enough to qualify for the scholarship. The remaining boys vow revenge on Ricky's assailants. Furious finds Trey preparing to take his handgun, but convinces Trey to abandon his plans for revenge. Shortly after, Trey sneaks out to join Doughboy, Dookie, and Monster. That night, as the four search the area for Ricky's killers, Trey asks to be let out of Doughboy's car and returns home. When Trey arrives at home, Furious confronts him. The two stare at each other, then depart to their bedrooms with no words exchanged, but a clear message sent to Trey. Trey realizes that Furious was right to keep him from falling into an endless cycle of violence. Doughboy, Dookie, and Monster continue to search for and eventually find the three assailants at a Checkers Burgers next to a big parking lot and prepare a drive-by shooting. The Bloods spot the car and attempt to flee, but Monster manages to shoot all three of them with an AK-47, killing one, then wounding Ricky's killer and Ferris. Doughboy exits the car, shoots the one who shot Ricky in the back, and then confronts Ferris. Ferris denies pulling the trigger and assaults Doughboy. Doughboy executes him. The next morning, Doughboy visits Trey and understands his reasons for wanting out of the car. Doughboy knows that he will eventually face retaliation for the murder he committed the previous evening and accepts the consequences of his crime-ridden lifestyle. He plaintively questions why America does not care about the plight of those in the ghetto, and sorrowfully notes he has no family left after Ricky's death and Brenda's disowning of him. Trey embraces him and tells Doughboy he still has one brother left. The epilogue reveals that Doughboy saw Ricky buried the next day and was murdered 2 weeks later. Trey and Brandy go on to attend Morehouse and Spelman colleges in Atlanta respectively. In life, there are constants and variables. A constant is something that will always happen or always will be a fact. A variable is something that can be altered or changed. An example of a constant in this movie is Trey's mother living in Inglewood and Trey's father living in Crenshaw. An example of a variable is 10-year-old Trey getting into an altercation with 10-year-old Bobby at school and getting suspended for 3 days. Or Doughboy and his half-brother Ricky having the same mother but different fathers. We're going to change the variable and discuss if the outcome of the movie and Neighborhood would have changed if circumstances were different. In my opinion, the variable of Ricky being rudely bumped by 27-year-old Ferris, a high-ranking Bloods member, could have changed to Ferris bumping 17-year-old Trey or 17-year-old Doughboy. Whoever Ferris bumps, however, is not who the gangster guns down. During the movie, Ferris was confrontational with Trey for walking across the street in front of his car, but Ferris did not shoot Trey. He chose to shoot Ricky. During the movie, Ferris was confrontational with Trey for walking across the street in front of his car, but the gangster did not choose to shoot Trey. The gangster shot Ricky. And I believe he chose Ricky not just because of the bump, not just because Ricky was not a gangster, but because Ricky was a star running back for Crenshaw High School and was visited by athletic recruiter Louis Crump from the University of Southern California. The movie does not state Ricky had ever been incarcerated or committed crimes. In crime-riddled, poor urban areas, the people who have adopted and admire the criminal element will be antagonistic to those who live and make money within the law and view them as an enemy because of their opportunities. I would not call it jealousy, but more like the law-abiding model citizen is going to be thought of negatively and labeled as square, boring, and a lame person because the degenerate is reminded through their action that they cannot hack it living a moral, ethical, and legal life. Similar to 10-year-old Trey is walking with 10-year-old Bobby in the street, and Bobby treated Trey decently. But then in the classroom, when 10-year-old Trey said everyone was from Africa, showing intelligence, 10-year-old Bobby clowned him by saying he was not an African booty scratcher. Ricky was always going to be gunned down, whether Doughboy was a Crip or not, whether Trey moved to Crenshaw or not, or if Ricky did not stop to pee in the alley, come with the idea to split up with Trey, and then nonchalantly stroll while scratching off lottery tickets. The gangsters would have went into the alley to get him no matter what because Ricky didn't have people protecting him. If Doughboy or Trey were gunned down, I believe that Ricky would have joined whoever was going for revenge and would have ruined his life. Ricky being a single father and his baby mother Shanice living with his mother Brenda is another aspect of the poor neighborhoods and urban area where there is a scarcity mindset and low resources. Anytime a man makes a woman a single mother, as in he doesn't marry her, doesn't create a family, doesn't provide, it more than likely is going to add to the population of people who are going to commit crime and be poor. Let's change one other variable. Let's say no one dies and Ricky survives. Ricky goes to college and meets other women, then goes pro. He more than likely will move on from Shanice. With Shanice and their son living in Brenda's house, is more than likely Brenda would tell Shanice she needs to move out, especially when Ricky starts bringing other women around. Shanice would be a single mother struggling in a house, working multiple jobs, trying to make ends meet, and it's more than likely that their son would grow up and be raised by the same streets that raised Doughboy. Shanice was more than likely put out by her own mother when she became pregnant. So Mrs. Baker, taking care of Ricky's son, Shanice, Ricky, and Doughboy, put a burden on Mrs. Baker. If Ricky would have lived, it's more than likely they would have had another kid for Mrs. Baker to take care of, and more than likely not finish college, since he had a 2.3 GPA in high school and a 710 SAT score. A 2.3 is a C. So Ricky's strong point was in academics. But Ricky mentioned the army and would have probably enlisted and spent deployments away from his family and driven a wedge between Ricky and Shanice, especially when Ricky more than likely would have dropped out of college. There's different what ifs. It could be a positive what if. Ricky could have went to college, married Shanice, went pro, and provided a lot of money for all of his family, and even helped Doughboy get on the straight and narrow path. Here's the reason why I personally, in my opinion, don't believe that would happen, and it's because of the environment. In the movie, whether it was Inglewood, Crenshaw, a majority of neighborhoods where black people resided, they were all crime riddled. So Doughboy being a Crip and his friends being gang members, it's more than likely they were going to be gunned down one day. In the same way that someone broke into Ferris, Ricky's father's house, to rob them, someone would have more than likely done Mrs. Baker like that and took advantage of Mrs. Baker, Shanice, and the son. When it comes to poverty, low-income, crime-riddled areas, it's worst-case scenario, and based off the police officers that showed up, they're not going to be sympathetic to the plight of poor black people, evidenced by the police officer who openly expressed self-hatred. Ricky's death motivated Trey to go to college, and Trey faced the same choice his father had when his father, Barry Styles, was asked by a friend to go rob someone. Trey having a father talk him out of getting revenge with Doughboy saved his life. If Trey would have been murdered, Ricky would not have had a father figure to talk him out of getting revenge. Neither would Doughboy. In the scenario, there's a lot of what ifs where if Ricky would have lived or someone besides Ricky would have died, there would have been a negative impact on everyone, including the neighborhood. However, Ricky dying motivated Trey and Brandy to go to college. Doughboy was murdered later on, and that eliminated a negative person in the community, whether we want to accept it or not. Brenda, because Shanice has Ricky's son, Brenda more than likely would allow Shanice and Shanice's son to live with her, probably rent-free, for decades, because Brenda would want a piece of Ricky to be with her since he was the favorite son. It's unfortunate, but when positive and good people lose their lives, they motivate others to do better to stop the cycle of violence. When people who are violent get murdered, it continues the cycle of violence because people want to get revenge. If no one would have been murdered in the movie, it's only a matter of time before it would have happened. Before people would have been robbed, people would have been murdered, it would have been a complete spiral. And Ricky, more than likely, if he would have lived and went pro or joined the army, he more than likely would have not moved his family out of the hood fast enough to make a difference. When people in the hood see that someone's successful and they're gone, the people who are left behind are assumed to have money, and people will rob them or hurt them to get whatever resources they can due to the scarcity mindset. Do you agree? Let me know in the comment section your thoughts. Thumbs up the video, share to your social media. Please subscribe if you like to hear more videos like this as we question everything. Until next time, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.